He's back. I'm going to have to lay low for a few days in terms of playing because whatever I did to this finger yesterday, it's really hurting today. I think I got a rose thorn that went like straight down into the tip, right into the bone. So like every time I press down my finger when I'm playing, it's like a little bolt of lightning going through my hand. So for the sake of my sanity, I'm going to lay low for a few days and let this kind of heal up a bit. And but I thought there's a couple of things I didn't do on the gear video that I did yesterday. So I'm going to show you a couple more things and clarify a couple of questions that were asked to me. First off, they did an album celebrating B.B. King's 80th birthday a number of years ago. And it was different rhythm sections from around the country. And I was fortunate enough, it was a lot of duets. I think I did, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 tracks on the album. But Bobby Blue Bland came in and sang with BB. Billy Gibbons came in. I forget who else we had at this point. But, you know, I just sat there flipping out through the whole thing. I'm just kind of going, I mean, I'm sitting not in social distance. I was about 2 feet from BB playing and with Bobby singing. And I was just freaking, you know, pinching myself going, that's BB King. Oh, shit, that's BB King. My God, it's BB King. It was blowing my mind. It was a fabulous experience. And when we did the album, I decided to use my Hofner bass on it, and I stuffed a bunch of foam rubber into the strings and got the thing really dead and thuddy, so it sounded more like an old upright on it. It seemed to be really fitting. But when we finished the project, I just said to BB, would you do me a favor and would you sign my bass for me? So here's my Hofner with BB King's signature on it. And I have a photograph of BB. Actually, it might be right here. Let me see. Oh yeah, it's in plastic, but it's a picture that I took with BB signing the bass, just so nobody would say, "Oh, BS, that's not really BB King," you know, blah blah blah. So that's a real treasured memento. I don't use that bass often. It's very kind of song specific. So if I find something where I think it'll fit, I'll whip it out. Excuse me while I whips this out. But the other bass I'm going to show you now was back in the, it must have been 67 or so. I had an opportunity to get a absolutely mint 62 jazz bass. Candy apple red, had the covers, everything. Just beautiful mint bass, and got it for $90, and which was really, for me, it was a scuffle just getting that 90 together at that time, but I got it. And then this was when I was in college, and I was sitting around one evening just kind of bored, and I took out a hacksaw and a knife and decided to change the bass. So I cut the body up on it, I sanded it down, I got out some stain and did work. And it's, to me, so representative of that period. It was like Vietnam was going on. It was the summer of love period. It was like all the hippie stuff. And it's really funny. I always looked like a hippie, but I was never a hippie. I never did drugs, never drank, never did any of that stuff. I just loved being around the music. But I'm basically an incredibly square. I mean, I think Ozzie Nelson is a freak compared to me. But but this is the bass before Frankenstein was built. This is the bass that I used on James Taylor's like One Man Dog. I used it on the early Section albums. I used it on Spectrum with Billy Cobham. So this was a 62 jazz bass, and now it is There's pictures of me playing it. The neck is so exquisite on this, but I've got a peace sign in there. Peace. There used to be a wooden cover that I carved that fit over this, and I had wooden knobs that are somewhere to be found. But this one really, like in here, is completely, it's hard to see how worn down that is. But man, years and years of playing with this thing. I used it when I was in Wolfgang, the band I was in when I met James Taylor. This was the bass I was using. The thing still sounds incredible. I cut so much, I removed the horn that was up here and made it more of that kind of a Les Paul sort of shape. In doing so, I ended up removing a lot of weight from the body. So the strap I still have has hanging off the end of it is a 2-pound block of lead as ballast, so that the bass doesn't go like that when I'm playing. It keeps it kind of upright. But so this was my first real bass. Before this, I had a St. George, and then after that, I had an Echo, which was the poor man's Hofner. And I remember playing a gig one night, and the strap broke, and the bass fell down, and it was a hollow body, and it had the plug in the side. And when I picked it up, the plug had punched right through into the body, so there was a hole in it. And so I had to just tape that all together. But so this is really a relic. And on the back, you can still see kind of a square right in here. I was a major Mothers of Invention freak, and I had a picture of Zappa decoupaged on the back of my bass for inspiration. I love the Mothers, all the incarnations of it, all the guys that have gone through. But that original band with Roy Estrada and Billy Mundi was one of the most amazing rhythm sections. And I used to go to all their concerts with Vito and his freaks. They did these things called guambos, and it was just like this giant freak out. And it was pretty amazing and pretty mind-blowing. I remember going to see the Mothers at the Anaheim Convention Center, and people were yelling out all kinds of requests, and Zappa stopped, hold on, walked around to each guy in the band, and then went. And each guy had been assigned another song, so they played all the requests at one time in total cacophony. And then he turned around and said, "Okay, new music," and they went on with the show. I mean, it's just genius stuff. But also, I was asked about strings. I've been using GHS super steel round wounds on most every bass I've got for forever. I really like those. I use a medium light set. I really like a 40 for a G string. Most kits sets seem to standard come with a 45. I just find that too thick. A 40 gives me wiggle room. So the standard set is 40, 58, 80s, and 102s. For my ding wall, I check with Sheldon because it's a different situation with those. A lot of times I'm using my GHS G string on that, and then I use the rest of the ding wall strings because it's because of the fan fretting. It's not a standard set. And I've got a couple others. I have a couple of basses like the Hofner, and I have a Washburn B45 Acoustic, which I almost got rid of because I just hated it. It just sucked. And one day I thought, well, let me try this, and I just pulled the frets out and filled the neck and put flats on it, the black nylon wrap flats. And boom, it came to life. It was a happy bass. So I still got that. And it almost sounds like a mini Moog when I play it. It's a really interesting instrument. I used it. There's a really wonderful album I worked on called The Great Divide with Willie Nelson. And I used it on a couple of tracks on that, and then used it with octave divider and stuff. And man, it's sweet. So I mean, I've got a few basses. I'm not a collector. I was very fortunate that John Entwistle was a collector, because like I had an alembic that I just never quite connected with, and he was looking for one to hang on a wall. I think John had like 400 or 600 basses or something, And he ended up buying my alembic, and just because he wanted to hang one on the wall. But I've never been that way. I kind of really just have pretty much what I would use. That's why I've got bases in hard rocks all around the world. And I've been unloading a pile of gear with this company called Techno Empire. And there's a bunch of bases, amps, all kinds of stuff for sale on that. And I've signed all of the stuff. But it's just, I just kind of go, it's not really fair to the gear just to sit in a warehouse or a closet. Instruments want to be played. So I pretty much keep, I've pretty much got everything that I'll ever use at my house, and that's it. So that's my video for today. As soon as my fingers feels better, I will start playing again. But I'm going to give this a few days to rest up, because it really, I don't know what the hell I did, but I always manage to do something. I always kind of feel when I'm working on a project around the yard or in the house or anything, that I really haven't done an adequate job until I see some of my blood somewhere on the project. And it never fails. I do find some blood somewhere on it from a project. So everybody take good care. Please, everybody just in your hearts, if you don't say it out loud, just give a shout out, though, to all of the people who are working so hard every day in harm's way to save lives and try to get this all under control. And they're a miraculous group of people, and they will have my unending gratitude for the rest of my life. They're something special. So enough of my rambling and going on and on. I'm going to get the hell out of here. You guys do whatever you're up to. And there's some other, I actually just saw something that I think will make for a great story. So maybe if I'm not up to playing tomorrow, I will tell you this. There's times when I'm interviewed and they always say, give us a great road story. And I think, and during an interview, and they want to hear about, was there like nude mud wrestling in the dressing room or something? That's usually only the band. But and when I tell them this one story, it's they always kind of just their eyes roll back, because it's not what they want to hear, but it's one of the most touching experiences I ever had on the road. So maybe I'll tell that story. It's a long story, but it's pretty sweet, at least to me. So you guys could take good care, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.